All right, today we're going to dive into a story that you probably haven't heard before. It's the really unique 70-year history of a colony called Italian Somaliland. And trust me, it's a wild ride of ambition, total collapse, and a path to nationhood that is like no other. It all kind of starts with this nickname, the White Pearl of the Indian Ocean. That's what they once called the colonial capital, Mogadishu. It sounds beautiful, right? But it also feels, well, a little mysterious. And that's really the big question we're tackling today. To get to the answer, we have to trace the whole story, how this colony was born, how it became central to a dictator's dream of an empire, how it all came crashing down in a world war, and then, and this is the amazing part, how it was reborn under a totally new system.
So here's the roadmap. This whole 70-year journey, it unfolds right here. From the very first treaties back in 1889 all the way to independence in 1960. As you can see, it was a period of some seriously dramatic, sweeping change. Okay, so let's rewind to the very beginning. Italy's involvement here didn't actually start with a war or a conquest. It began with a series of diplomatic treaties with the local Somali rulers along what's known as the Benadir Coast. And this, right here, set the stage for everything that was about to happen.
To build its colony, Italy used a really specific strategy. They called it a direct and developmental policy. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, it means this wasn't about ruling from a distance. Nope. It was a very hands-on approach, focused on pouring money and resources into the colony's infrastructure and economy.
And this approach really made it stand out, especially when you compare it to its neighbor. See, up north, British Somaliland was treated more like a strategic outpost, and it got way less direct investment. But Italy, they were going all in, trying to create modern plantations, roads, and cities like Mogadishu, which they really saw as the crown jewel of their new possession. And you know, this wasn't just some abstract policy. It was driven by actual people. One of the key figures was this guy, Luigi Amadeo, an Italian nobleman. He was the one who pioneered these massive agricultural projects. Think sugar and cotton plantations, all in an effort to make the colony productive and, hopefully, self-sustaining. But this developmental approach, well, it was about to get completely overshadowed by a much bigger, much more aggressive vision, because the rise of fascism in Italy was about to change the colony's entire trajectory. Under Mussolini, that relatively peaceful development of the early years, yeah, that was over. It gave way to just raw ambition. The goal wasn't development anymore, it was expansion. His regime launched military campaigns to push Italian control deep into the interior, taking power by force.
And this all reached its peak in one single pivotal year, 1936.
After a really brutal conquest of Ethiopia, Mussolini basically took all of Italy's territories in the region, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Somaliland, and mashed them all together into one giant super colony, Italian East Africa. For him, this was the absolute peak of his imperial dream.
But you know what they say, what goes up must come down. And for this brand new empire, the collapse would be just as fast as its creation was celebrated.
Just 5 years. 5 years after its grand proclamation, the whole dream died. In 1941. World War II was the reason. During the East African Campaign, British and Allied forces completely dismantled the Italian empire there. The entire territory was captured, and just like that, decades of Italian colonial rule came to a very sudden, very definitive end. But the story doesn't end there. Not at all. In fact, this is where one of its most fascinating chapters was just getting started. I mean, what happens to a colony when the colonizer is just gone? Well, the international community came up with this totally new idea, the United Nations Trust Territory. And the key thing here is that the goal wasn't more colonialism. The whole point was a temporary mandate with one explicit purpose: prepare the territory for full independence. And in a really wild twist of fate, who did the UN ask to administer it? Italy. They were back, but this time as an administrator, not a ruler. This basically set off a 10-year countdown to freedom. From 1950 to 1960, the entire focus shifted to nation-building. Somali political parties started to form and really thrive. Modern schools and government institutions were built from the ground up, all of it with the UN watching over.
And out of this period, a whole new generation of Somali leaders emerged. We're talking about figures like Abdullahi Issa Mohamud, who served as prime minister during the trusteeship, and Adam Abdoulaye Ousmane Dar, a really key nationalist. These were the guys who were instrumental in guiding their people towards self-government.
The 10-year plan, it worked. And on this date, the waiting was finally over.
On July 1st, 1960, the Trust territory of Somaliland became fully independent. But something else absolutely extraordinary happened on that exact same day. The former British Somaliland, which had gotten its own independence just a few days earlier, chose to unite with its southern neighbor.
So you have two colonies shaped by two totally different European powers coming together in this amazing moment of shared national hope to form one single unified nation, the Somali Republic.
And the man they chose to lead this new republic as its very first president was one of those key figures from the independence movement, Adam Abdullah Osman Dar. The journey was finally complete.
So that brings us all the way back to where we started. The White Pearl might have been a name from a colonial past, but the journey of the nation that grew from it was truly unlike any other. And it leaves us with this one fascinating final question. From a directly ruled colony to a UN-guided trust territory to a unified independent state, what is the lasting legacy of such a unique and complicated path to nationhood?